Hello, everyone. It's me, Andrew. I'm here in my home in lovely Ligonier, Pennsylvania. If you don't know who I am, I'm one of the co-owners of Allegory Gallery. And yeah, it's been a day today, y'all. I apologize for being late. I had a meeting that ran over, and then I was trying to get ready for this live and tripped falling up the stairs. So my knee is a little bit sore. I don't know how that works out, but yeah, so that was less than optimal. Hopefully, you all have been having a good week. It's Wednesday. We've had a pretty busy week so far. If you didn't see, on Monday, we had a trunk show with Laura Lunsford. She sent some really lovely things that we have up for grabs. William took some pictures today of the things that weren't claimed, and is going to assemble an album so that folks who may not have gotten their first choice through the claiming process that we usually do can still have an opportunity to kind of look through and find something, hopefully. As with all of our trunk shows, it not only helps us at Allegory Gallery, but it also helps the artists that we work with. So if you get anything from that trunk show, not only does it help me and William and keeping this creative castle afloat, but it'll help Laura out as well, which I think is always nice. So we've been super busy. As I mentioned at the start, I apologize for being late today. I had a meeting that ran late, and I couldn't duck out, unfortunately, since I was helping host the meeting. So that's always, one of those things. And then I tripped going up the stairs, so my knee's a little bit sore. So I'm going to have to do some arnica and some other stuff because it's kind of sore. On Tuesday, so on Monday, we did the Laura Lunsford show. On Tuesday, which is yesterday, busy day. In the morning, we did a debut on YouTube of how to make a silicone mold. It was one of my first kind of tutorial videos on YouTube. I've done hundreds and hundreds of tutorial videos, but so far we've focused mostly on Jen. Um, and she and William were filming some tutorials, Saturday morning tutorials, because she's going to be out of town for a little bit. So they were trying to get a jump start on the weeks ahead so that we don't miss any. I believe, we're at 41 or 42 videos. It's hard to believe. That's all on YouTube. And if you've missed any of those, you can definitely catch up on the replay. And then in the evening, we did more miscellaneous lots, which uh, lots of folks found things. So thank you so much for that. We really appreciate that. Um, and then today, we're going to make a beaded fish. Now, this is a little bit different. I'm still working on the other fish. I'm almost finished, maybe, with that one. So that's something that I'm working on currently. But for today, I thought I would do something a little bit easier, a little bit quicker, because, it'd be nice to get something done in a sitting as opposed to many ones. I have a question. Pamela says, Andrew, is a silicone mold video on YouTube? Yes, all of those are on YouTube. So if you go through the YouTube, you can see our whole archive of different videos for that. All right, so let's see, what do we have going on today? Busy day as usual. Barb was in today at the cottage. We had some crazy weather last night and yesterday. I think there was like 6 or 7 inches of rain. So there was some flooding that happened, not us, knock on wood, thankfully. So that was really good that we didn't have to have any problems like that. Um, it is a little bit like there, it's a little bit damp in the basement, but not like, you know, crazy wet. Like, because we're a little bit on a hill, so that was fine. There is an area at the cottage where there's a door that goes out onto the second floor, or second, it goes out onto a flat roof part at the cottage, and that door needs to be replaced because there's a little bit of a gap. Um, Over time, the wood has shifted and stuff, and there's a little bit of a gap that I try to keep stuffed, but there was a little bit of water that came in, so that was not the best, but it's not, it could have been way worse. So thankfully we got that all kind of situated. And then, yeah, so I'm not going to stay too late today because I have a lot of work that I have to do, um, that I can't not do it. So I'm going to flip this around and get started. It's a little bit, we're going to do a little bit of mixed media techniques today. Um, and we've got a lot of things that we're going to do tonight. Let me see about, okay, I'm going to flip this around and you're going to see the ceiling for a second, and then we'll get going. And hopefully you all are staying safe out there and doing well. I know some of you all we've been concerned about because we haven't heard from y'all. But, you know, I get it. Sometimes life gets in the way. All right, ultra wide back camera. Here we go. All right, so I'm probably going to move the fabric because otherwise it's going to get stuff all over it. And this is actually a nice piece of fabric. And I don't want to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sketch out our fish. And one of the ways that we're going to do this, there's a product here called Lacey's Stiff Stuff. And I don't know, is it backwards for you all or is it the right way for you all? Because for me it's backwards. I guess I can mirror it. Normally I don't really care about that, but for this, with the tech, with the text, there we go. All right, so there's this product called Lacey's Stiff Stuff. This is really old, so I've heard some grumbling in the beading community about the new formulation not being as nice. I don't really have an opinion on that because I haven't used it yet. So this is Lacey's Stiff Stuff. It's a really lovely material to use to do a bead embroidery because it doesn't fray. Some of the, like I was doing some painterly portraits using seed beads on canvas, and the issue with that is that because it's a weave like that, it can fray. So there's some stuff that you have to do to stabilize canvas to make it an appropriate surface to do bead embroidery on. However, it can make sewing into the surface kind of hard to do. So this is a product called Lacey's Stiff Stuff. If you are interested in getting any of this, I don't know if I have any of the old stock available, but I can order this in for you. If you want that, just email us at info@allegorygallery.com. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out our pattern. I thought that would be good to go over making a pattern with you all because it is a good thing to do. And you may not be aware of how to do that. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure out how big our piece of Lacey's Stiff Stuff is. I just eyeball this really. But I know that if my piece of Lacey's Stiff Stuff is only this big, I'm not going to want to make a great big pattern because if I make it great big, then I'm going to run out of room for my bead embroidery. So there's a couple different ways of approaching this, and we might cover, depending on how much time we have, we might cover some different ways of doing this. But anyways, so the reason also why, if you're wondering why I'm doing so many fishes, is the Beadwork Museum, which is located in Portland, Maine. They have a call for entries this year. It's one of their fundraising events, and the theme for it is wishes and fishes. And so you make a fish and then you send it, and then they auction it off, and hopefully it makes some money so they can stay in business, or stay, they're a nonprofit, so stay operational. All right, so what we're going to do is, I've got this piece of Bristol board. I've used this. Oh, I don't want to mess that one up. I have this for another project, but I'll talk about that another day. So I've got this Bristol board. It is a little smaller than the piece of Lacy Stiff Stuff, so that's actually perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosely sketch out my design. If you want this to be more symmetrical, you can definitely, you know, do this on a thinner piece of paper. Do you want to learn how to do symmetrical stuff or not? Do you want to just learn how I do it freehand, or do you want a symmetrical? You have options here. You want symmetrical or freehand? I might as well just do, I'll show you, because it's not going to take that much time. So I have this piece of paper. This is a thinner piece of paper. And let me trim it down for y'all. I'm using my fancy metal shears to cut this like scissors, and they work. All right, so freehand, you just draw it out like this, right? So if you're going to do a shape and you want it to be symmetrical, you have this, right? So you find your middle point, and you kind of half it in half, right? And it doesn't have to be straight on the paper or anything, but it does help if you have a ruler or a straight edge of some sort, and then you make the dividing line, all right? And then you fold this in half like so, and then you trim it, and you make your shape like this. Now I'm going to purposely do something so you can see the difference. So if you make this a sharp edge like this, when you get it, it's going to be super pointy. But if you trace it, if you make it more blunt, it's kind of like when you cut like snowflakes. I don't know if y'all ever did that as kids. So there you go. So this is how I make a symmetrical pattern for your piece. Then what I would say is take this and put it onto a Bristol board, which is a stiffer piece, which is better for patterns. The reason why I'm doing this on Bristol board is so that I can save this pattern, and then if I do the another side, because this is good for if you're going to do one side. So I may want to do two sides and then attach them in the middle. So this is one way to make that pattern. For me, I'm going to do this freehand. So I've got this shape, and then I'm going to put a little fin here, another fin here, and another fin. And this is kind of cartoony. That's all right. That's what we're, a lot of my work is kind of whimsical like that. So, so this is the fish that I'm making. And then I'm going to do an over-exaggerated eye. And that's going to give us an idea of what that looks like. All right. So I may want to adjust this, make this a little bit more, um, narrow right here. So it looks a little bit more like a fin. I don't know. You just kind of have to play around with it until you're happy with your design. How about that? And then, because I don't want it to look too much like a shark. All right, that's good. So whenever you're cutting stuff out like this, another thing that you can do to help make your life a little bit easier is if you cut in this, all this extra Bristol board will kind of get in the way. So if you just trim it down to size first, sometimes it seems wasteful, but it just makes your ability to navigate your lines a little bit easier. And you can just really go to town. I'm trying not to make too many super sharp points. I want them to be a little bit not so sharp. I want them a little bit rounded, which will be helpful. All right, so I've got this. I'm going around. And I'm not being too precise, obviously, because that's just, I'm not. I mean, you could spend hours and hours doing this. You could actually take a photograph of a real fish and cut out the silhouette and use that if you wanted to be really precise about that kind of thing. And that's something that you can do if you want to do that. I have a little bit of a sharp point there, so I'm just going to trim that. All right, so this is my fish. This is going to be my fish pattern. And then I'm going to look at it from the back. Because with this, sometimes when you have this dark line, it can trick your eye. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking at it like this. I can see here where I thought I was going to make this less kind of curvy. It kind of looks funky there. So I'm going to go back and trim that out. Originally, I wasn't going to have that, but I think that helps with the silhouette of the fish. All right. So that does look a little bit better. And like with everything, if you spend more time working on stuff, and help refine what you're doing, your finished project will be a little bit better, right? I mean, sometimes it's nice to have that immediacy, and then sometimes it's nice to be able to have it be a little bit more refined. So that didn't take too much extra time, but it gave us a little bit of time to help refine that shape. All right, so I've got this lacy stiff stuff. The nice thing about this lacy stiff stuff is it's kind of a lovely texture. It is stiffer. It kind of reminds me of a dryer sheet, to be honest, or that fusible material, interfacing material, maybe. I don't know. I'm sure there's somebody out there who figured out what that is. Now I'm going to place my design on here like so. I'm going to try not to go right up to the edge. Normally with any kind of project, I like to get as much I like to utilize as much material as I can. So generally speaking, when I do stuff like with metal, especially silver, I put that business right up on the edge, and that way I don't have a lot of byproduct. What do you call that? Well, I don't have a lot of waste. But with bead embroidery, if you go right up to the edge, sometimes you have what's called this infinite sadness in your life, because then if you try to do on the edge, it can cause problems later on when you go to mount your piece. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to kind of precisely eyeball this so that I've got some clearance on each side. And then that way, I don't have the infinite sadness. I can just enjoy bead embroidery and not have to worry about stitches falling off or coming loose or whatever. I can worry about trimming and all that later. All right. So what I'm going to do is I've got this Sharpie, and depending on what you want, like, I don't know, you don't have to use a Sharpie, but the nice thing is that this material you can use a Sharpie on, which is good. And I'm actually going to be part of it. Part of my line is, as I'm tracing, is going to be half of it is the on the template that I made, the pattern, and then half of it is off of it on the lacy stiff stuff. And then that way I get a kind of a finer line. All right, so I'm tracing it now. And Pamela says, where does one buy lacy stiff stuff? I've never seen it offered anywhere, but I'm not a seed beater. We have a bead store, so you can email us at info@allegorygallery.com and we can get it in for you. All right. And this is the old package, as old time. All right, so I've got this right here like so. That's the top. That's the bottom. All right, so I'm gonna actually trim this. I mean, you can trim it a little bit more precisely, like if you wanted to have that little angle there. I'm gonna save this for other projects if I do something smaller. Originally, I was gonna do a dimensional eye and show you how to make eyes. However, I can't find my glue here, so we're just gonna go with what we've got, right? All right, so I've got this. Now I am gonna do a little bit of mixed media on this. I think this will be fun because why not? Why not have it be exciting and fun? All right, so I've got my handy dandy palette here. I've got two mediums that I'm going to work with. I've got this opalescent. This is an interference paint. It's from Martha Stewart. I can almost guarantee that you're not going to be able to find this because this is an old bottle. You may be able to find it, but this is an old bottle. I believe there's a new folk art paint that has the same interference. It's called color shift or color change, and you can get that. I'm going to use this. I like this because it's got the green in there, but it dries. See how this is? It kind of has that green shimmer to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of this out here like so. And you can see that it's old because it's thick. And then I've also got this golden matte medium. I love golden. I love matte medium. It's my favorite. And I'm going to pour a little bit on there. I'm going to squeeze that back in there on top so I don't waste. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this up and kind of work that in there, that interference paint, get that all nice and distributed in there. See how that's real thick? I don't want, if I'm painting anything on here for bead embroidery, I do not want there to be anything that's thick because then my needle has to go through that and then there's infinite sadness. All right, so if there's any chunks, I'm gonna bust some chunks off to the side because I don't need no chunks on my life. And just make it nice and smooth. Now here's where the fun comes in. I mean, this is kind of fun, but the real fun is about to start. How about that? There's this guy that I follow on YouTube who talks about how you can become a YouTube celebrity. And he's like, his one thing is he's like, I'm going off script, but then he has slides that accompany him going off script. So I don't really think he's going off script. So anyways, so I've got a couple different things off to the side. This is a product from Smooth On. It's a type of powder that you can add to your resin, and it will make it glow in the dark. So it's called Glowworm, and it's a phosphorescent filler powder that can be added to liquid plastics and rubbers to create castings that glow in the dark. I really love this stuff. It's really cool. I'm always trying to figure out ways that I can incorporate glow in the dark. I don't know why. I think it's because I grew up when I did, and I was like bewitched by glow in the dark. So now everything I do, I want to have some kind of glow in the dark. All right, so I've got these powders, and it's a little bit hard to see. I'm going to see if I can do this. All right. It's a little bit hard to get the true sense of the color of the glow powder. But because I have this handy dandy black light, I can charge them up and you get a better sense of what they look like. So this one is actually a blue color. And this one is like a lemony color, and this is a green. The beads that I have are these ones, and those were, I kind of like that blue. I know the blue is not the best because it's not the most flashy. I think it won't be the brightest. So I think I'm going to go with this yellow. It's called Electric Yellow. And then see, I don't know if y'all can see that or not. So I think those are fine. I'll leave that off. I'm only going to use a little bit, just a teeny tiny bit of this, because it does add like a little bit of a grit to the paint. So just keep that in mind. And I'm just going to use the end of my paintbrush to dip it out. And then there you go. I'm going to wipe that off so that I don't have that all over my hands. And I'm also, whenever I'm working with powders, I'm mindful of not huffing this business. Nobody needs to have extra kind of problems in their life. So, and then I'm going to mix this. All right. And then as a point of reference, you can see what's going to glow and what's not going to glow. Isn't that neat? All right, so I'm going to mix this in, really thoroughly combine that. And I'm going to scrape down my brush too, because sometimes stuff gets stuck in the brush, and then you have problems, you know? It's not thoroughly mixed because you have like a pocket in the middle, like a hot pocket. All right, so I'm going to paint my fish. I'm going to do real light layer. This is only because if it shows through, then you get to see that showing through, right? Instead of seeing bright white, you're going to see some color, a little bit of color. All right. So again, I'm not going too thick. If you make this real thick, then it's going to make it hard to push your needle through later on. So you want to be kind of thin in this application. And there you go. All right. So I have some water off to the side that I'm going to use and to wash my brush out, because if I don't, then I'm not going to have a brush anymore. It's going to be hard like a rock. And I don't want that. So, all right. So there's my fish, my glow-in-the-dark fish. And if I want to have that like that, I could be done already, right? That's kind of fun. All right, I'm going to rinse my brush real quick. All right, so I rinsed that off to the side here. And I'm going to plug my hair dryer in so that we can get going and not have to wait for this to get going. So I'm going to test it. If I see any residue on my finger, I guess I could always look and see if my finger glows and see if it is tacky at all. If it's wet, I'm not going to want to mess with it. All right, so for my fish, I've got the template. It's going to be backwards because I traced it backwards. So I'm going to find where my eye is. I'm going to trace this on. Now, there's a couple different schools of thought. Now, some people fill in their shapes first and then outline their piece. Some people outline their piece and then fill it in. Some people will do a combination of both. So it's up to you and how you do this. Originally, I was going to show you how to do kind of a bezel with on top of this lacy stiff stuff to show you how to keep this down and kind of do the bead embroidery that way. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the right kind of glue. It's all at the cottage, so we're not going to do that. So instead, we're going to do some straight up bead weaving, y'all, or bead embroidery. So normally, I like to use the smoke fire line. And for this, you can do it for a little bit. You could do it 4 pound. I've got the 6 pounds, so I'm going to use 6. Normally, I like to use smoke. However, we're going to use some translucent beads. And I don't want the thread to be showing so much. So I'm going to use this crystal, which is the kind of clear. And that's what I'm going to use because I don't want the thread to kind of be the main event. I want the beads to be the main event. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off one wingspan of this thread that I've got on here, the spiral line. And then sometimes I think it's better to do less and add more thread as you're going, as opposed to not. Now the shear, I don't know if you saw that or not, but if you use those shears to cut it, if you use it like this, it's not going to want to cut. But if you hold it like this and then you pull your thread, then it will cut. Because then the shears actually have a different kind of cutting motion, so it can kind of chew up the end of your thread if you're not careful. Now, in theory, I have needle somewhere on here. I hope I don't find that business with my foot later. All right, so there's needles somewhere on here. I might have blown them off the table with the hairdryer. Oh, here they are. All right, so I've got, this is a thicker needle, beading needle. I like, and then this is a thinner beading needle. You would think that you would want to use the thicker one. I'm going to use the thinner one. I think this is a 10. And then I'm going to thread my needle. And there you go, easy peasy. And then what I'm going to also do is at the very end here, I'm going to tie a knot. Normally I don't tie knots when I'm doing beadwork. However, with this, I don't want it to pull through. So I'm going to use this to tie a knot at the end of my thread. And then that way, when it's kind of like with like with sewing, I don't want that to pull through the fabric. Normally, I don't worry about that and I weave it back in later. Some people leave their tails and then they do some kind of weaving and things like that back in and all kind of stuff. I'm not going to do that because I just like this. Now I'm tying this a couple different times, and that's to make sure that this is a real big knot so it doesn't pull through. I mean, the times that we're going to go in and out of the lacy stiff stab should be fine. And then we're also going to attach it. There's a couple different things that people do. Sometimes people will start outside of their shape and then make a stitch into the surface of the lacy stiff stuff. I'll show you what I mean. So if you want your needle to come out here and do the iris, it does not make sense to start your stitch way out here. However, with some of the kind of idea of this is that there's extra thread and that it's going to be kind of embedded into the surface of the material that you're working with, so that it's not like, so that if it does pull, it's not going to pull from that one spot. So I am going to, the nice thing about this is that you can kind of hold it up in the light and see it. Is that I'm going to start off to the side here, like so. And then I'm going to just sew this, make a stitch. And some people don't like to have the thread show, but you know what? The thread is going to blend right in and you're not even going to see it. It's hard to demonstrate on this stuff because it almost is invisible. All right, so I'm going to go through the back. I'm looking through it. I'm kind of looking through that. And then I'm going to post it right in the middle there. All right, so I've got some black seed beads. These are maybe like a size 10. I could go larger. There's a couple of larger beads in there. These are just black beads that I have. And I'm going to post the big ones. This is like a size 6. Maybe I'll do 2. I'll do 2 here. All right. Like this. See, I strung that up. And then I'm going to go and just stab this in there. Let's see how that looks. Now, I want those to lay flat. So I've got this like that. Let me see. Maybe I'll take this off. I'll do 1 because this is a smaller pattern. Sometimes when I have a lot of surface area to do, I'll start with 2, but I think I'm going to do, since this is a smaller piece, I'm going to start with 1, and that is a larger bead. So sorry, y'all. And then I'm going to put that back in there, rethread that. All right, so then I'm going to go, I'm going to push this down. And it's really a lovely material to sew into. It's very satisfying. I just put this all around my stand. All right, the thing is you want that to stand straight up. You don't want it to be off to the side like this because then you're going to see the thread. So you're going to want to put that off to the side like so. And then make sure that kind of stands up. Then I'm going to go through the back here. And I'm going to pick this up like so. I'm going to move these off to the side so they don't get hung up. I'm going to try to adjust that so that the bead is standing straight up. And then I'm going to pick up maybe 3 beads. It depends on how big. These are probably 11/0. And I'm going to come around to the side here. And I'm going to try not to tangle up my my thread. Get them nice and to lay flat. That's the tricky part. And it's not wanting to do it. Oh, wow. There you go. So, in theory, you're going to want to pick it up so that it lays, so that it sits on the surface of it, and it's not going to be a problem. So I'm just going to do one, and then I'll go back up through that one, and we'll do it a little bit different. And so here you go. All right. So I put that on there. And then I'm going to sew this down to where that's coming out. And then I'm going to come back up through on the other side of that. And you can kind of see if you look closely, there's some holes and perforations. And if you go up through that, then you know you're not going to be hitting your bead. All right, so here's where I'm going to take this needle and I'm going to go through that bead that I just added. And then Pamela says, laying it flat means the bead hole is showing or the rind outer edges stands up. So I want this so that I don't see the hole. So when this is finished, you're just going to see the sides of the bead. So that's what I mean by that. Not laying flat on the hole. All right, so this, I'm going to pick up some more of the, now I'm going to pick up the seed beads. And then I'm going to lay this, push this down so that they lay down onto the surface of the lacy stiff stuff, like so. And I'm going to push them so that they are close, and then sew it in. All right. And then the next thing I'm going to do is notice how that one is kind of wanting to lay off to the side there. I'm going to go back up through. I'm going to flip it around. And it's going to kind of go through the middle of that line that I just created. And the reason why I'm going kind of in the middle of that line, see how it's going up through there, is because I'm going to go through that last bead that I added. And that's going to help it stay up on its side like so. I'm going to pull it a little bit like that. See how that instead of laying flat and having the hole showing, it's showing just that. All right, so I'm going to pick up 3 beads. And then I'm going to find this around here. I'm gonna push this down to the side here so that I can see how much room it's gonna take up, like so. And then I'm going to sew this in. And this is kind of the fiddly part. This is not the fun part. Well, I guess this is kind of fun. What am I saying? And then I'll go up through the middle there. And I don't really care what the back looks like because I'm going to, in theory, I'm going to do this where I do this a double-sided piece. So I'll do two sides and then sew them together. So I just kind of came up behind that last bead that I put. I'm going to go through that. And that's going to help keep it staying up on its side, like so. All right, so I've got 3 more that I'm going to do. And I'm going to do that the same kind of way. All right, so pull this so that it sits flush. See? And then I know that I'm gonna go around here. I'm gonna go through the lacy stiff stuff. And then I'm gonna come back up through that, kind of in the middle of that kind of segment that I did. I'm making sure not to split my thread because I don't want that. Pamela says, can you lower the camera? No, it's too close. And then I'm going to go through that bead there. All right. So here, if you have this, another thing that you can do is you can go, if you want to tighten these up a little bit, you can pass these back through these beads here, and then go through it like so. And you can pull it and kind of cinch it a little bit, and that'll help kind of take out any of that slack. So I'm just going around in a circle, basically, going through all the beads that I just added. And I'm going to pull slightly, and then that's going to help take some of the tension off of that, or add some of that tension. So I'm going to hold that in place while I'm doing it. And you can't actually see anything when I'm doing that, but I'm holding that in place so that they stay put. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add kind of the iris color of this. And I think I'm going to do this in kind of a funky orange. And I think that will be fun. These are size 11 O's off to the side. And they're kind of a peachy, pinky orange. And they've got an iridescent to them. And that's one of the reasons why I'm using this crystal thread as opposed to the smoke that I normally use, because if I use the smoke, you can see the thread, and then that's less than ideal. All right, so I'm going to pick up, these are smaller. So I've got, I'm going to press this down to see how they are when they lay flat, like so. Let me turn on an extra light. I don't know if that'll make it easier to see or not. So there you go. And then I'm going to, let me see if I can do this without getting my hand up on the camera. All right, so I'm going to press that down like so and pull it. But you see how the last bead in that line wants to lay like that? We don't want that. We want them all to be up on their sides like so. So you kind of have to, it's like a See this right here? The thread's coming out. It's hard to see because this is like white on white, but you want that to be in your project like that because you don't want to see your thread later on. So I'm going to come up through here like so, which is kind of in the behind that last bead. And then I'm going to go through that last bead in the segment so that you don't actually see, it doesn't lay on the flat like that. You want it to be up on its side. All right. So I'm going to just repeat this until I go all the way around. In theory, you can do more beads. I think it's sometimes it's better to do them in smaller segments like this so that you can kind of see where you're going and you don't have a bunch of like really loose threads everywhere. So I kind of do it in small sections, and then that way it's kind of like when you're making a curve. If you make it curve with a great big line, then it's gonna look weird. So you just do it in smaller. It's like you take smaller bites. And then you go up through. I'm going to try not to go through that black bead. I just want it to go through the orange one. All right. So there you go. And then I'm going to repeat, picking up 3. I probably could go up to maybe 4. But I want this to, like I said, I'm making this curve and I'm using small straight lines. If you can imagine it, I'm kind of making all these little lines out of that. So I don't want that to be a great big honkin'. I mean, I probably could try it. Let me see. We'll try doing more. We'll try to do 6. And if I have to go back through, then I can go back through. So I like to place them and then see where they're going to go. And then sew it down. Because then sometimes people who have a lot of experience, they already know where the beads are going to go. So I'm not one of those people. So I like to see where the beads are going to go. I don't automatically know. So I think I'm going to take this off and do it 3 because I was going to try to like speed it up and do 6 at a time, but really I don't like it. So I'm going to do 3 at a time. So that's the nice thing about this lacy stiff stuff is that you can go through it several times and it's not going to get messed up. Where some materials, if you go through too many times, it makes these ginormous holes, and then you can't, then it makes it hard to sew on after. So I've got this off to the side like so. I press those down so that they're kind of flush to the shape that I'm trying to conform to. And then I'm going to go through like so, sew it down, go back through. And so this is kind of, I guess this could be considered tedious. I think this is kind of meditative in a sense. This is a really lovely way if you are painterly, and you're a painter. This is a way that you can do kind of painterly effects with seed beads. And you can be a little bit more organic with how you apply the beads. With some bead weaving techniques, you have to figure out your pattern ahead of time. With this kind of technique, you don't really have to figure out your pattern ahead of time. You can kind of go more free form with this, and that's a nice thing about that is that you can so that's white on white is not excellent for teaching. However, I actually want to send this project off so that they raise money um, for the museum. So I don't necessarily, it's not the best for teaching, but you kind of get the idea, I think. So you just repeat this. And what I'm going to do is after I finish up the eye, I'm going to use larger beads, and this will go up way faster than if I use smaller beads, because otherwise it's going to be here until the end of time, and that's less than ideal. All right. So how have y'all been? What have y'all been up to? We have been busy as usual, trying to get stuff ready for the move and getting things like that. Always takes longer than one thinks. I've been trying to update the Patreon a little bit more so that people feel like they get their money's worth. I know mostly it's kind of like good karma points in the sense that it's like you want to support something and see it do well. Cheryl says, I'm wiring the seed beads on Jen's mountain project tonight. Oh, good. I saw as Janet who showed her project. That looked really good. I love the colors. And Cheryl, I like the forms that you had shown last night. Pamela says, went to Morrison, Colorado and found a nice Larimar pendant. And that's good. All right. So a lot of this is you put the beads down and then you go back through. And then that is how you do that. All right. So I finished up this row of the orange, and I'm going to go back around just to round up that shape a little bit. So I'm just going all the way around. You probably don't need to do this, but I think it cinches the beads a little bit closer. So that's a nice thing to do that, I think. It has a nice little bit of tucks them in, It's like tucking in your shirt, I guess. Which I don't really do anymore because I don't wear that kind of clothes anymore. So I'm going all the way around. And I'm almost all the way around. I may have already gone all the way around. And then I'm going to hold this down and tug. I don't want to tug too much because if you pull too tight, then you can cause the lacy stiff stuff to kind of buckle a little bit, and I don't want that to happen. Let's do one more row, and I'm going to increase this. Instead of doing these in threes, I'm going to do that in maybe 4 since it is a wider curve. Does anybody have anything good for dinner tonight? I think we're going to have leftovers. So I've got that kind of lined up, and then I'm going to go back through. And in theory, you can go back through multiple times. I'm going to find this. And pull it. I kind of like this. It's not a quick thing, for sure. You know, some things are you get instant gratification. But for seed beading stuff, this is actually pretty quick. I mean, the beads I'm using right now are not because they're small, but for the most part, this is I don't know. I want to say it's quicker, but we'll see. Y'all be the judge of it. But it isn't like stringing where, you know, this does take a little bit more time. Tomorrow I have to go to the Manos Gallery and pick up my pieces from the show. I don't know if anything's sold. If it did, that'd be great. If not, then we'll post them in the online store for Allegory Gallery. And yeah, so you can see it's slowly coming along. I do like to have kind of more expressive eyes. So I was tempted to just do one row of the kind of peachy pink color, but I think I'm gonna do 2 rows, and that'll look nice. All right. So one of the things that you kind of have to be mindful when you're doing this technique is you don't want to necessarily have to get that caught up on anything, because that's where the tricky part is going to become, where they're on the corners of stuff. It would be easy peasy to get that caught up on stuff. And you kind of have to eyeball it a little bit. I mean, a lot of these things, you know, there are certain processes that you're going to get. You're going to have a little bit more control, I think. With this is it's kind of like painting in the sense that, um, you know, you can be a little bit more painterly, I think. And also, it just depends on the process that you're doing. Like if you want it to be a little bit more, I guess if you want it to be more mathematical, you can figure that out. My brain doesn't really work like that. I know there's some people who they love like really super, like I can't read um, a a knitting pattern. My brain, it just gets kind of messed up in my brain, so I can't. I guess I could try and force myself, but it does not come easily to me, so I try not to. You know, I think that life is short enough that sometimes you kind of have to know your strengths, um, and that's not one of my strengths. So, all right. So I've got this coming out here. I want to come back over here, so maybe I need to go way far. That's too far. All right, maybe I'll come up through here. Okay, that's better. So the stitch that I'm doing, that's probably the hardest part is kind of eyeballing that thing without actually being able to see it. And making little stitches there. But anyways, some people's brains, they work where they more analytical and they can look at a pattern and figure it out. I'm not really one of those people. Like recipes, I'm not really good at recipes. For me, when I cook or when I'm doing pretty much anything, I like to understand how to do something so that I understand what it happens. Like I know that if I cook onions in a certain way, I can brown them, and that creates a good flavor. And you get that kind of rich caramely notes out of them. And then you can go from there, you know. with so there's stuff like I'm researching a bunch of stuff. In theory, I could try to find an exact recipe for some of the projects that I'm working on. However, or just buy stuff that's already ready made. And that'd probably be easiest. But for me, in a way, I kind of like to understand how things come together. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. But it's less about, I don't know, getting like having somebody answer that question for you. It's kind of like figuring it out. I know that it's easier. They're kind of look not that great, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I guess what I'm saying is that when I'm working on these when I'm learning a new skill, I want to be able to understand it in its, especially in its material complexities, so that if I do something else using that same techniques or materials, then I can use that in other applications, so that I'm not just like duplicating. It's a kind of the understanding those different qualities. And so there's a lot of failure in my work. I'm not going to lie. There are times when I'm working and I probably could do something else and be way more successful. But I kind of like the understanding and learning how to do certain things. All right. So I think that's good enough. That's a big enough eye. So I'm just going to I want to kind of start in a new spot. So I'm going to stitch this down and then go up. The nice thing is that this is kind of see-through. I don't know if you can see it, but the light, you can see through this lacy stiff stuff. So you can come up and you can see through it. If it's more opaque, you can't really see through it, and you kind of have to guess. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some size 8/0 silver lined glow in the dark beads. And I think those will be really nice to do that. In theory, I could really add a lot of shading and think about that. But I kind of just want to, I don't know. I want to get it done in this. So I have these. These are Toho's. I try to find these in other forms, but this is what I found. So these are size 8, and then they're silver lined, glow in the dark. And hopefully you'll be able to see some of that kind of glow in the dark action. Pamela says, until it was shared to save pasta water to have your sauce adhere to the pasta, I didn't like my pasta. I can't knit or crochet. I can't control my tension. This reminds me of counted cross stitch. There's a lot of things about like pasta water. Like I think it was a common thing for people to like wash their pasta off. And the thing is that as a starch, and that starch helps bond the sauce to the pasta. There's certain pastas that you have to do that to, because there's too much starch. Like some of the rice noodles, there's so much starch in it that it can kind of make your pasta gummy. But anyways, I don't really, I did cross stitch as a kid, but I haven't done it in a long time. So anyways, this is the process of it. You stitch down your row like that of your seed beads, and then you come back up through the back side of it, and then you sew that last bead in there. So not only does it anchor those row of beads in place, but also it gets that one to be on its side, like so. And I'm just going to continue this going around the eye using these silver line seed beads. I'm not using as many. I mean, you probably could go faster, but I'm kind of I'm not really. I don't want to say that I'm not in the mood to go faster, but I'm not really. I don't know. I just don't want this to get too rushed because I feel like if you make the stitches too long, then you don't get like a clean of a line. But I could be wrong. I do a little bit of this kind of bead embroidery stuff, but I don't really do a lot. There are people who do this all day long. This is what they're known for. I am not known for this at all because I think it's fun. Like I dabble with this, but it's not something that I'm like, you know, I don't know I think I'm mostly known nowadays for mixed media techniques and maybe some metal smithing, which I don't know. I used to be mostly known for stringing, but I don't really do it. I do stringing, but I'm not well known for it like I used to be. I think where I used to get more notoriety is because I used to write for books and magazines on how to do stringing work. So, and I don't really do that anymore very much. So, that's where that is. But I like to do a little bit of everything. I think that it's super fun to know how to do different things. I think it's good for you to try new things, test stuff out. Do y'all want an AG bead, AG live challenge? Y'all want another one? I like seeing all of the stonework that they shared their pieces using stones. That was fun. Let's do another one. Show something using seed beads. I know some of y'all are using seed beads right now in your projects, so that makes it easy, right? So that's the AG Live challenge for tonight is you post something in the Allegory Gallery Design Challenge group using seed beads. You can make something new, or you can post something that you made previously, hopefully using stuff that you got from us. Because that's how we stay in business. There's a lot of it's not easy being a small business owner. And especially nowadays, I feel like it's harder. I don't know. That's not true. I was going to say that I think it's harder now to have a small business than it was 10 years ago, but I don't know if that's true either. I know that for our business, it's changed a lot. So that's been kind of interesting to kind of ride the waves of how our business has kind of changed since we've been open. We've been open for over 12 years now, and our business is vastly different than what it used to be. And in some ways it's good, and in some ways it's harder. I think a lot of if you had asked me about stuff then, it would have been completely different. My answers would be completely different than they are now, because I thought back then, like that was before the pandemic, and I had very specific ideas of things that would always be the way they were, and then they're not like that anymore. So that's been a challenge. Amy says online business changed everything. Yeah, and I think in some ways for the better. We're actually, we are in a very small town, and we always knew that that was going to be something that we had to deal with, because when we first started our business, there were people who were like coaches who would show you how to like have a bead store. And one of the things that they kind of requested is that you have a critical mass of at least 100,000 people in your area. And we have 1,500. So, we always knew that the decks were stacked against us. Even in tourist towns, that we just kind of knew that that was going to be something that we had to face.
Hello.
Hi, William.
How's it going?
Kind of not great, but
Not great.
Uh-oh. What is that?
That is some kind people who donated since we lost our job at the Roadster Factory. It's a car club. They came together and did a GoFundMe
Wow.
for the employees.
Wow, that's awesome.
All the employees got one.
That's great.
Yeah.
I tripped falling up the stairs.
I heard that. Are you okay?
We'll see.
Too much rushing around.
Uh-huh. And then the cats have been driving me crazy. So anyway, so this is what we did in the last hour. Michelle says hello.
Hello, everybody. Are you enjoying the fish? I was listening to it on the way. I only got it in the first probably 20 or 30 minutes. I went up to the cottage to finish taking the Laura Lunsford pictures.
Oh, good.
And then I realized I forgot some in this little box. So, but I'll put most of them up tonight for everyone to look at, and then I'll put the rest up in the morning.
Amy said that was so nice of the Roadster community.
Yes.
Yeah, because you didn't get anything from because he made too much money to get unemployment.
I don't get unemployment because I'm an independent business.
So, because he's a contractor or whatever.
No, because we have a business.
Because we have a business. So they're like, you don't need any money.
Some of my coworkers were telling me I need to call and check with unemployment and actually call someone, because I try to do it all myself online. So I might call and see if anybody can help us more.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Because right now it's kind of hard.
It's hard.
I mean, we're doing okay, knock on wood, but
it's hard.
He's like, I actually know the numbers. It's hard.
Well, it's just like every morning. It's like, whenever you're like, I don't know if anyone's been in this situation. Like, we grew up this way. Like, every morning you wake up and you're like, okay, what am I doing today? How can I move this here? And how can I think about this? And who's doing this? And what am I doing for this? And where am I moving this money today? It's constant.
Yeah, and because we've been closed for a month, so the physical store, I know a lot of people, they thought that we didn't make any money. It's not that we didn't make any money that we closed, is that it just costs more to run that.
Well, it was getting to the point that if we kept it going longer, that it might end up to the point where we don't make any money.
Yeah.
And so we decided to pull the trigger while we could.
And then move it.
So, but my job covered our mortgage, covered our utilities for our house, and that's the hard part.
All right, I poured some of these size 6 glow-in-the-dark seed beads. I know we had this idea that we would move faster too, so we're not moved yet. And I was actually thinking about this, like there's this huge event that's coming in town, or that I have to go to at the end of April, and then I'm like, I don't want to miss being at the store. So,
No, you're not allowed to miss being at the store.
so
What is this? What talk is this?
um,
He's like, something you don't know about yet.
what time is the grocery store closed? It's closed already.
Yeah. I stopped and got some chips, and I stopped and got biscuits. So we can, because we have leftovers, right?
I don't know, but when the food last night was only okay.
I liked it.
Mm.
I thought it was really good. Why? What do you need? No, even by the time I get there, they'll be closed. They close like 5 minutes before.
Walmart?
No, not Walmart. I can go to Walmart if you really need something.
I guess we're fine.
Because we
So
decide our life on live camera.
oh well.
It's like y'all get.
I mean, this is kind of repeat.
This is the life.
This is not like it's not. That's a Tom Boylan bead.
I'm looking through your stack.
I'm rich in beads, y'all. And money, not so much in beads.
That's why we try and sell it once in a while, right?
I'm not selling that. This collector.
Here, show it since we're talking about it.
Here.
Look at that, how beautiful that is.
I think that's like $100 bead. That's when I had money.
Least. That's when you had money. Whatever that was.
Yeah, that seems a long time ago.
That's when you get on the high at the show. And you're like, oh, we had one good day. We got some money.
I know. that cash money then burnt a hole in my pocket.
And then you get back and you realize, oh, I probably shouldn't have bought that.
No, I never feel that way.
He's like, I never feel that way.
You know, buyer's remorse? I don't get that. Yeah, actually, I do.
It's like you just work harder. You only get buyer's remorse when you don't get when you're not pleasantly surprised.
You know, I like my stuff. You know, some people they don't like their stuff. I like my stuff. So that's the thing. There's some people that when they're like, oh, I hate all like I think they like hate their stuff.
That's when people don't plan their purchases right.
No, I love my stuff. I love stuff.
When I decide to buy something, I love it.
I love stuff. I could buy stuff right now. I got shopping carts ready. If we won the lotto.
Every time I go into our Amazon account, there's something new in that shopping cart
that I need.
You're just sitting there waiting for the next order.
I know, until I get some money. I do need materials for my class coming up in October, but I have to make samples. So that roadster mine is going to get spent up.
It's already spent, so don't even think that's gone. Don't even think about that. I got utility bills to pay.
That was a nice thought for that brief moment in time. Oh well, at least we're not completely out of business.
No, y'all are. We got the best support people around.
I know. We're lucky that way. You know, though, it would be nice to have it where I could just do whatever I wanted. We were almost there, I would say. Like,
we were getting there before the pandemic.
There was a brief moment in time.
On our way. It felt like things were finally going to be like, oh, we want to take a little weekend break. We might be able to actually do that.
Yeah. Nowadays, I think we're on our way, but I think it's just harder.
I think once we get that casting going, I think that's going to be a big thing.
I know that. I'm hoping.
And people are going to love all the weird things you make and all the natural things we make.
I like all the things. I'm going to make all the things.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, I have this feeling that's going to be a good part of things. And if I can learn 3D printing, even better.
There's a class up at the Baltimore that's called ZBrush, and it's virtual.
Ooh.
Maybe you can apply for a scholarship.
Maybe I'll have to look. Okay, how long are you gonna be? Do you want me to heat up dinner? Or are you gonna show them some more?
What is this same thing over and over? Yeah, basically I'm just going around in circles until the end of time. And actually no, this is pretty quick. I mean, I've only been working for like an hour, and how many is that? that you think?
How many is what?
The
How many beads on there?
a third of the way? That's
Oh. That's
that's
a generous. A third would be calling that generous, probably, but
so that's pretty quick, right?
okay, well, I'll let you go.
People are gonna be like, no, it's better when you're here because then I get bored to tears by myself thinking
I will
about.
be back then. I got my pit stop.
I gotta go see them cats.
Hello, Idabelle.
Them naughty cats. Cheryl says, "Can we stay for dinner?" You know, we had been talking about doing these lives where we don't actually like we really talk like, but we don't necessarily like show stuff. Um, there's an artist I follow. Her name is Sandra McEwen, and she does a Twitch, and which is like usually it's for like gamers and stuff, and and so Michelle says, waiting to see how you move off the circle. Basically, you just move into, I'm moving in concentric shapes because it's easier, but you can do flat if you want. And you just, instead of doing it on a curve, you just do it flat. That was super helpful, right? I got a knot in there. I knew it. Oh, wow. Sometimes when you're working with the bigger beads, it doesn't matter. But with the lacy, stiff stuff, it does. So right now, if there's a knot in there that I can't get, sometimes I just smoosh that knot down as hard as I can. And then then it will be easier to pass through in theory. I don't know. We'll see. Generally speaking, if I get a knot, I like to take it out if I can. However, see how that's like making a loop on the back there like that? All right. So, what was I saying? Oh, the Twitch. So we've been talking about doing some videos where we, some live streams where we kind of like I work all the time, and so I work probably like I know I work all night long usually, and um, you know. I'm always working, so I don't mind showing, like hanging out. I think teaching is kind of hard in the sense that sometimes, I think to be an effective teacher, sometimes you have to plan out what you're doing and have like, understand like how long it's going to take and different things like that. So I think that that's one of those things where you kind of have to think about that to be a successful teacher. Now, so I've come around the circle and I have a couple people who said they want to see stuff that's not in the round. So what I'm going to do, Michelle says sometimes those knots don't come out. Correct. Sometimes, because this is a thermally bonded thread, sometimes if you get a knot into it, it just is a nightmare. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take two needles and I'll go through them like this and then I'll pry it apart like that. So Amy says, you used to do work with us lives and you and William were actually working. Yeah, I know. It was nice. I like to do those. I don't know if anybody else actually liked them though. That's the thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour a little bit of these in there. And then I'm gonna reverse directions and go using these smaller beads and work with that. Now, like I said before, I can outline the shape if I want to and then fill in. And that's one way that I can do that. Right now, what I'm doing is not that. So I've got that like so. That looks like hot trash. So let me see. I'll do. Oh well, we just gonna do, and then if it work, it work. If it don't, it don't. Um. Yeah, I don't. I don't know. I can. I kind of like when we do those because it's nice to be able to do that and get stuff done. I don't mind like hanging out either. That's a nice thing to do also because you don't feel so like lonely. But in my studio, sometimes I get like that where, and you notice I'm kind of sometimes I'll hold it up in the light like this, and that's to let the light pass through so that I can see through the lacy stiff stuff. And then um but yeah, sometimes I'm in my studio and it would be nice to have other people. So I'll think about that because um sometimes I don't really want to teach, I just want to make something instead. But I don't know. We've gotten a little bit away from the tutorials, and one of the reasons why we've gotten away from that is mainly it's a financial thing. Is that we don't really make a lot of money when we do those. So, um, so I mean, because we're not necessarily showing all the time stuff that you have to buy. And maybe that's something that we can work on where people, make it more like you have to buy the thing to get the thing to make the stuff. I kind of don't like to do that though. That's the thing, is like I like to have it so that anybody can do it, um, regardless of whether you bought that thing or not. But now that since we don't have the income coming in from the physical store, I don't know. I have to think about that. So, and a lot of that is also because we've been moving in the process of moving. And that's even though we've not been like hardcore moving and like moving boxes and like doing stuff like that right now, it is one of those things that kind of takes up your um maybe Pamela said we should do a retreat. We used to do a retreat a long time ago, and we called it Creative Camp. And we had people come from all over the world to come and hang out with us. We did that years and years ago, and we turned the whole entire town into a campus. And that was fun. It is a lot of work though to plan all the logistics, and we were gonna do that. We had started doing that before COVID, and then when COVID happened, it became real hard to do event planning. So there's that. Maybe. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a weird space to be in because there are a lot of possibilities of things that we can do. And there's a lot of stuff that we had done previously. So maybe revisit. Um, but then also it's like, do we go over the same ground that we've walked previously, or do we kind of find new things?
Hello again, everybody. What are y'all talking about?
We kind of talked about, Pam had talked about doing a retreat.
Oh.
And how other people are doing them. And I had mentioned that we had done.
Oh, been there, done that a lot.
I know.
Used to have them all over Ligonier. You did some
Creative Camp.
Creative Camp. You did some didn't you do one in North Carolina too?
Yeah, I used to do a retreat in North Carolina, and I did a retreat in Arizona. And those were a lot of fun. But they are a crap ton of work.
They're a lot of work. They make you crazy sometimes. And then it was all fun once you got there with everybody.
For the most part.
The planning is.
I think it is something that I would think about doing again, but
I liked when we did creative camp here in town.
Yeah, that was fun.
And because it was our home, it was a little bit less crazy for us.
I know. I think when we were gonna do another one in like 2021.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
We had one planned. We were starting to talk to people.
One of them we were gonna do it in Tucson, and we had talked with different rental facilities and got prices and all that kind of stuff. And then our collaborators kind of bailed, and they said they didn't want to do it. So that's the other thing is I'm kind of like I love collaborating, but also I'm getting to the point where sometimes I just want to be able to do what I want to do.
It's nice to have full control.
Yeah, and then I don't have to like wait for other people. I can just do whatever I want. But I am teaching more and more broadly. So I'm going to be teaching, and William's going to be coming in
Teacher's
October.
TA, y'all.
And that's going to be at Sawtooth in October this year. So
Look at the TA.
I know.
Are they going to like me better than the teacher? We'll find out.
She said, Pam says she didn't know us then when we did all that stuff.
No, a lot of people didn't.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the thing.
Pandemic. We've gained a lot of people over the pandemic.
There's a lot of people that that are relatively new to our creative community. So in that way, that's been nice, the pandemic. See the bright side of that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize we've done a lot of stuff for a little store.
Amy said there's a place near me that is doing grown-up summer camp again. That's like where I live. There's Touchstone. I wish that they had that stuff for kids when I was growing up. I mean, we probably could never have afforded it, but Touchstone gives scholarships for the kids. No, our camp was doing manual labor. It was like a work camp. So I don't miss that. Yeah. So we haven't even run out of thread at this point, which is kind of cool. So this is just one wingspan so far, and I've worked around in a circle. But I think I am, even when I'm not, when I'm doing the straights, I'm going to still do this on a curve. And I think that will add something. I don't know. I kind of made the eye too big. And we'll see. I don't know. That's the fun thing is that you kind of get surprised. Pam said that she has a harebrained idea. I don't know. If people said that they may share it privately. Maybe. If it requires me going into debt, then no.
No, I'm not gonna do it.
If it requires
too many people, no, not gonna do it.
Yeah, so we'll see.
So my class was good today.
How was that?
It was pretty good. I have things like in every stage of production right now.
That's good.
So I had 2 bowls. I actually had 3, but one of them cracked in the bisque. So it's going to be my tester bowl when I want to test a glaze that I'm not sure about, which I do anyway, so really it doesn't matter. But I have 2 bowls that I glazed today, and I glazed them what should be a pretty kind of blue and white speckle on the outside. But then my teacher, Amy, when she went to that
Sika,
that conference, she got testers of the brand new glazes that aren't even quite out yet. So
That's fun.
yeah, so
I wanted to go to that.
that would have been great. I did the inside of my two bowls with a new pearl color they have.
Ooh.
So we're gonna see what that ends up looking like.
Is it like a pearl luster?
I think they call it pearl luster. I think that might have been what it was called.
Is it from Duncan?
They're I think they're Myco.
Oh.
But I can't remember for sure.
I don't know if that's the same thing.
But wait, I wrote it down in my. Oh, these probably don't have my. I don't know what I do with my phone. I took pictures, but they probably did not sync. No, they did not.
Michelle says, "Ooh, pearl bowl finishes." You know they have a pearl luster that you can, in theory, use on enamel. What?
What?
Who? What?
Where's my phone? Oh,
I don't know.
It's right there on the table.
He's like talking. I don't know.
I'm not looking at you.
I'm looking at this fish.
I got beads to do. It's called opal luster.
I want opals.
It's called opal luster, and it's
opals
like
are my love language.
It has like an opaly, like that opalescent, but it seems like it's over like an orangey red. So we're gonna see what it comes out like.
Show it in my eyes.
Well, this is what it looks like before it goes on.
Oh.
So we'll see.
It don't look like nothing.
No. So I did the glazing of those two that have been sitting for a while, that have been bisqued. And then that new clay that we tried last week, I started trimming, and I broke one of the bowls as I'm getting so thin on my walls that the bowl broke when I picked it up, which is kind of a good sign that I'm doing a good job getting them thin. But Amy's like, why don't you turn that into like an upright spoon stand for the kitchen? Because half of it kind of came off. So I said, okay. So I shaped it into that. So we'll see how that comes out. Because she said she's been wanting to do some of those because like when you lay down your spoon, it takes up a lot of space. But if you have that and it goes up when you're cooking, it doesn't take up as much space. So I'm going to have that, and then two other little bowls that I trimmed today.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so I glazed some and I trimmed some. I did not throw any more today. But I have another bowl yet that I think is in the damp box that is waiting for me to do something.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Pam says, are you going to continue in circles or are you going to do straight lines? They're going to be curved because I want this to kind of mimic the scales of the fish. So they'll be curved, but they'll be going like this because I don't think I can make any more circles. Maybe I could do half circles, but that's exciting, William.
Yeah, I had a good time. We
Is anybody else watching the pottery show?
We are watching the pottery show last season. We haven't gotten to this season yet.
Are they on this season or this?
The one we're watching is last year's.
I know, but are they? Are your pottery friends watching this season?
I don't know. No one talked about it. I told them all about it last week and where they can find it. But most of the people in my pottery class, like we had some new people come in and some people who are fairly new to the class, newer than me.
And they shy?
They didn't know about the Great Pottery Throwdown. So when I mentioned it, they had no idea what I was talking about. And some of the regulars that have been in there even longer than me, they know all about it, but they haven't been in class the last few weeks. So
whenever you're trying to start a new row, and the other thing is you don't have to do this in just the same beads. If you want to switch the beads up and do mix and match, you can also do that as well. But whenever you start a new row, you can kind of see through this, and then you can kind of move up to where you need to be. So you can be, and what I mean by that is you're not going through the black line. You want to kind of stay within the lines. Also, every once in a while, give your work a little bit of a tug, and that makes sure that your stitches are pretty tight. But like I said earlier, you don't want to get to the point where you pull too much that causes the substrate underneath to buckle, because then it will make issues. Pam says, have you made any flower pots in various sizes?
I have made what you could possibly use as a flower pot.
You made that long kind of vase.
I've made some vase-like things. I had one bowl that I put a hole in the bottom that just sold recently. That was in the wood-fired one, and it would be big enough. It had a nice little round lip kind of on it. You could use it if you wanted to use it as like a hanging flower pot. But I don't make any with like holes generally in the bottom. At least I haven't yet, because I'm waiting to make my mom a flower pot, but I have to be able to get the thing big enough. I'm still working on getting my pottery big. I like to do small stuff, but I'm working on making things bigger so that it can fit more. And my mom's looking to fit like a little 4x4 pot, like extra little, like not a styrofoam, but like those little plastic 4x4 pots.
Is it like African violet
I
pot?
think it's an African violet. That's exactly what it is. And she wants a bigger pot to put that down in.
You could throw that.
I've not been able to get that big yet because everything shrinks. So by the time I think I've gotten it big enough, it shrinks down to where a 4x4 would really fit in yet.
You can do it.
I'm working on it.
Did you see Alexis is doing a Raku class?
Who?
Alexis Dillon.
No. Where?
I mean exhibit.
I think they've done one. They did one already there. And I missed it. But I think I did see that they're doing another. At least I think they did one already. Maybe that's the one I saw.
She's teaching it.
I thought they did a test one,
maybe that's what it was. All right, so I'm just continuing around. So I don't know how interested y'all are to hang out with us while I do this, because this is not instructional at all, hardly. I mean, I'm just selling stuff on stuff. Yeah, so it's just that same technique of placing stuff down and then going to that last bead. So I don't know how interested y'all are. Let me see something. I missed a comment. Michelle said things are looking up for us. Hubby has been having a lot of health issues, which has been affecting his work. He just got his health insurance back, so now he can finally get help. Yeah, that's good that he's getting help. I know, was that from the writer's strike that he lost his insurance?
That was so awful.
Was it writer's strike or actor's strike? I don't know. Some kind of strike.
I think it was the actors, right? And then everyone got pulled into it, which sometimes people need to strike.
You're going to get me in trouble. All right, so I'm just kind of stowing stuff down. I had some things kind of planned. I was going to put the bigger ones on the tip, just so that it kind of looks more like fish lips. But I don't know. We'll see. Michelle says, no, it's military health insurance is because of money issues. Oh, that sucks. How's your son doing?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Hopefully, all right. Pam says, I want to see the scales. I mean, that's what we're doing. But Michelle says he's better. All right. So with these bigger beads, you can see that it kind of puckered up like that. So I may have to stitch each of those down. So I'm going to go through and sew this like so. And then I'll go back maybe underneath and somebody was like, "Oh, you know what you should do? You should start your own bead show." I said, "No, no, thank you. Um, there's already people doing that, and it's already hard enough."
Yeah, most of those have closed too. We don't need to be doing two things that are closing down all over the place.
Yeah, just go to Ava's shows. She's nice.
Support the ones that are still there.
Yeah. All right. So I went through, if you didn't see me do that, I went through and I sewed all of those individual beads down. And the reason why I did that is because um, I want to be able so that if later when I come to trim this, I don't want any, if I accidentally snip one thread, the whole thing comes apart. Amy says bead shows now are kind of meh. Well, that's the thing is like, you know, I would like to have like it'd be one thing if I didn't have to make money and I just have what do whatever I wanted to do. And then I would have like make it real festive and have like um people have like a fashion show. I think that would be fun. I don't know.
I do hope the beach show wave comes back soon.
A
Like
lot of people they make all their money staying at home. So like what's the point of doing a show when you can stay home in your underwear and then you don't have to like go and schlep all your stuff because
yeah, it's true.
there's that. Look at that. And that little fish.
How's it looking?
It grew about 1 centimeter.
A centimeter, that's pretty good.
No, it's not. I grew 1 millimeter. I do think that I should have went through and reinforced some of these stitches a little bit more. So I may go through in hindsight, and go back through and see how some of these beads are coming up. That's exactly the problem I didn't want to have, and I have that problem now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back through and sew those troublesome beads down, and then they can have their own life down sewed to the I think what's happening is that where there's pressure coming in from the additional rows, it's causing some of the beads to buckle that weren't sewed down. So I think I'm going to go back through and sew those down. But I don't know. We've been on for like 2 hours. So I think what we're going to do is um, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and forth like this. I'm not going to do the fins. The fins I'm going to do where I do like 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, like that off to the side, like whiskering. And then when I get down to the tail, I think I'm also going to do that where I just go like this. And it's kind of like what we did here for the lips. Except I kind of want to pull that one bead in. And what I might do is also, because this is a beadwork and I am creating a dimensional kind of, they are kind of a lattice of beads that I'm creating, I can sew into those beads. So once I stitch it down to the lacy stiff stuff doesn't mean that I'm not going to be able to manipulate them anymore. So if something is loose, I can go back in and weave this in and then you know go back through. So if I have beads that are sitting like this, like so. What I can do is if I pass this through, then I can go back through here. I don't know if y'all can see this. Yeah, I'll use this as my prop. And go back through like this and tie them down like that. If that makes any sense. So if I've got the beads and they're stitched like so, and these ones are loose, I can run a thread through here and then go through this, connect to the stable line, go through this, and then kind of curly Q my way through. That looks like a hot mess, but I mean that's how it is. You would run your thread through that one, go through just this bead, go up and through this one, go back through that, go through the second bead on that lower level, go up, go through the bead in the top, the second bead in the top row, go down through that, go back through that bottom middle bead, go through the last bead, go up, go through that last bead on the top row, and then go out. And that's the way that I can kind of stabilize some of these Wonkadoodle stitches. And then I can also go back through and stitch on top of this. So if I want to, I can do peyote stitch on top of this. And but with a black thread work between the rows. I mean, I guess you could, but I wouldn't do that, but that's up to you. And then there's talk about Rocky Mountain Bead Society. I don't know. I used to do a show out in Denver. We did it at the Denver Merchant Mart. But that's been over a decade.
I never went to that one.
That was a cool one. I liked it because you get to go to the mountains. But that was back in the day when interweave was really a big thing, and they were based out of Loveland, and so there was a really active community there, and there was a little shop in Loveland, and she's since retired, and a lot of the shops aren't open anymore, so there you have that. Pamela says, I belong to it but never get notices. There's a couple bead or societies like that. I'm in another one where they're like, oh yeah, we have all these monthly meetings. I was like, when? I was like, I'm a member too. But anyway, so I'm just gonna continue to do this, going back and forth and run around. This is kind of neat.
I like that dried in the bright color.
Yeah, we'll see how that looks. I'm going to turn off all the lights, and then you can... And then we're going to do, like, shadow dancing.
Shadow dancing. Let me get the other ones here. Without saying anything.
Whoa. So we'll see. Oh, those look good. They're blue. Cheryl says we're back at the club. Correct.
Wow, that's glowing like crazy. I want to see it, but I'm afraid to walk. Here we go.
So there you go.
That's pretty cool.
Why am I even beading this? Looks fun just the way it is.
I don't need to bead.
You can even see the glow in the dark beads. All right, we're gonna go. I'm gonna continue beading this, and I'm going to turn on my audiobook and
Get some dinner.
yeah, that too. Maybe while you're heating that up, I'll continue doing this. So then I'll post the finished piece on. Michelle says you're done.
You're done. Sometimes it be that way, right?
Pamela says, where does one get those small black lights? This black light I got in Tucson. This is not a regular black light, by the way. This is called a shortwave black light. It's different than the regular black light you get. So you know how we had these they're called highly fluorescent fluorite beads, and we had a regular black light. And I shown the light on them, and I was like, "This, what they talking about? Highly fluorescent? This looks like gentle dull glow." And then I put this light on it, and it glue like Technicolors. And I think there is one that's one step above this. However, I think that causes cancer, so I don't necessarily want the eyeball cancer. So so I'm not going to get that. But this one works really well, and then it has this USB plug, and I think this was kind of pricey. I want to say this was like $30 because the other ones you get is like a flashlight, and those are like $8, but this was a little bit more. But oh, here, Last Fire.
What's it called?
Vast Fire. Maybe William will put a link if you can find it. Shortwave. Is it shortwave or medium wave? I don't know. One of the waves. And it's the ones that rock collectors use. This is sold specifically for rock collectors. And I was going on a walk in the desert, and they're like, "Oh, you can use that to find the scorpions." And I was like, I'm not going to be hunting around in the desert for scorpions. And they're like, "It's really fun." I was like, for someone, not me who has to work at the bead show in the morning. So anyways. Michelle says, my lamp has a black light and it's perfect for the glow and the dark beads. Yeah, the black light will make the glow of the dark beads work, but this one really makes them work. It makes them like you going to put it really like charges them up. Because you can, even with the lights on, you can still see it, which I think is pretty cool. So, anyways, we got this going. And thanks so much for hanging out tonight.
See everybody out there.
Yeah, we didn't get too many people watching tonight, but that's kind of my fault because we were so late. And then also Wednesday nights, we don't usually get a ton of people. So I don't know, maybe we'll take a day off. We'll see.
It was like, I would like that.
Yeah, have a day off where I don't have to do it solo. It's more fun when William does the lives, isn't it? Everybody say yes. They love to do just William only. Only William. Cheryl says it was intimate. That means nobody turned up. That's like if you have a party and like 2 people show up, then it's intimate. An intimate soiree. That's why I'm like, one time we had this party, and this is back when we're young. This is not when we're middle aged, and we used to like go dancing all night. And one time, only like 2 people came over to the party, so I switched out of the I'm like, this not worth it for hard pants. So I just switched to the sweatpants because I was like, I don't need to impress anybody. Who am I gonna impress? And then I was like, here, just shovel all the food on the plate. You don't need to do this little finger food action. That was fun. So Pam says, love the show, thanks. And Michelle says, love you both. Lots of love back.
Yes. We appreciate all of you out there.
Pam says, is the opal strand still available in the online store? I don't know what. Maybe. That's like a good. If you go to the website and look, it will say sold out. Otherwise, I don't know.
There's at least one. If you're talking about the latest ones I put out there.
William says there's at least one, so maybe. Michelle says, Andrew, you showed me a lot of stuff I never knew. Oh, good. Then I'm not a failure in life if I've shared at least the gift with one person. The gift of knowledge. I'm getting slap happy. All right. See ya.
Bye, everybody.